Yeah, I think we're ready to start.
Yeah, the screen is visible, right?
Yes, we can start soon.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, perfect. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to Joomla NXT, April 2022. We are in the 9th episode of Joomla NXT. So we started this virtual event series to create a platform that connects the Joomla enthusiasts and share the best practices, ideas, and insights to build websites and powerful applications with Joomla. So we started this series with the launch of Joomla 4 in the month of August, and it's been a great journey so far. So this is a quick glance of all the series. And so we started in August, and today we are on the 9th episode. We are really fortunate, to have great speakers across globe, starting from Brand, Phil, team. So like different experts from different corners of the globe. And today we have Hristo and Vlad. So I'll request Parth to take over and
Hey, thank you so much, Sudhanshu, and welcome everyone to Joomla NXT episode 9. It's been a great journey so far, and it's really been a pleasure hosting this event. And we have had some wonderful speakers with us who have enlightened us on different aspects of Joomla. And today we try to take a very different view of Joomla. We have Hristo and Vlad with us, who are co-founders of Scala Hosting and S-Panel. Both of them are extremely cloud savvy and serial entrepreneurs. Today, they'll be talking to us about the hosting angle of Joomla and how they are kind of using their new product called as S-Panel and taking the hosting industry by storm with this new offering. Scala Hosting has been committed to Joomla and its community for over 10 years and has been supporting one of the most CMS, most popular CMS platforms globally. So today, I would like to welcome both Hristo and Vlad, and they'll be talking about an interesting topic, two topics in fact. One would be multi-center data clustering and scaling Joomla website and how tooling options in Scala Hosting makes it easier. So over to Hristo and Vlad.
Okay, let me start. First of all, thanks for inviting us on this exciting event. My name is Hristo. I'm one of the co-founders of Scala Hosting, also the CEO. I will be very short to explain quickly the story with Joomla and our successful collaboration model. We started like 2 years ago as exclusive VPS provider for Joomla org. And since then, we are also sponsors of the organization to support the large Joomla community. A few words about Scala Hosting. We are a hosting company, obviously, but we have our specific focus on the managed VPS technologies. And what make us different compared to the many other hosting companies, is that we are also a software development studio, and we tend to develop almost every piece of software that our customers use ourselves in-house. That's how we power up our collaboration with Joomla, because we all know that this is the most popular CRM for web designers and web studios, and they always need more than what's available on the market. And that's where is the sweet spot for all of us, because we are always ready to listen to what the end user needs, and we always develop those features that are most necessary and most useful. Now that we put 2 years under the belt with the Joomla organization, we are in the phase to start doing even more exciting stuff with them. And for you to know more and to hear more, I will leave the floor to my partner in the company, Vlad, who will tell you what's going on in our development team recently.
Okay, hello from me, and thanks for inviting us to participate in this webinar. So let me start by telling you about what news we have about our Joomla partnership. Basically, the first thing I would like to start with is the Joomla integration. We just completed, let's say, a week ago. And I would like to show you how that integration helps Joomla users manage their Joomla websites much easier and saving lots of time. So let me share my screen. Okay. There we go. Do you see my screen? I guess yes.
Yes, you're live.
Okay. Okay. So I'll start by logging into the S-Panel admin interface, and I will quickly jump into one of the accounts. This is my test server. Here are all the features that are available for the S-Panel users. This is the user interface. And in the software section, we now have the Joomla Manager, which allows Joomla fans and users to be able to do multiple things related to managing multiple Joomla websites and Joomla installations. First of all, the first and maybe the most time-consuming feature is the one-click installer. Basically, rather than downloading Joomla and uploading it manually, creating a database and the database user, and then giving access for the database user to the just created database for the Joomla installation, all that takes lots of time. Everything was automated with the help of Brian Tiemann, so that the Joomla integration is done in a perfect way and performing the installation in the right way. So I will show you how we can install Joomla, let's say in a subdirectory. I enter where I want to install the new Joomla installation. I enter the admin username I want to use. Then with a single click, I can generate a strong password. Then I can copy it with a single click so that I can later use that password to log into the admin interface of Joomla. Here I will enter my email address, which will be automatically populated during the installation. I click on the install button, and now in the background, the Joomla integration system will copy the necessary files, create a database user, set the permissions and everything. And now the Joomla installation is completed. It takes just a couple of seconds. And now we can access the new installation that we just performed. There we go. And you can now log into the admin interface of Joomla. It loads very quickly. Here I paste the password I just copied during the installation. And there we go. We are in the admin interface of Joomla. Everything is properly installed. As you can see here, everything is installed as per the requirements of the Joomla developers. And here the help of Brian Tiemann was really, really good for us, so that we can make sure that everything is done as it must be done. And the post-installation messages here are just the traditional informative messages that I will hide for now. And from there, you can basically start building the new Joomla website in the manner that you know and that you want to follow. Then I can come back to the Joomla manager to show you what other features are available. For here, you can see all of the installations that you have in your S-Panel user interface and manage all of the Joomla installations. This is the one we just did, and we are able to clone an existing installation, which is something really useful for developers when they want to do some changes, for example, to install a new extension and to make sure it doesn't break the whole website. In that case, they can clone the existing installation to, let's say, Joomla Clone. Click on the clone button, and now in the background, the system will copy all of the files. It will clone the database and also make the necessary changes, adjustments in the database, so that the website will load at the new URL we cloned the Joomla installation to. Here we can access the new installation. I can log out from the production website, for example. Then I can come to the just cloned one. And let's say we forgot the password for the admin user and we want to reset the password so that we can log in quickly without going to the whole procedure here with the forgotten login details. I can choose the option in the Joomla integration in S-Panel to reset the password. Here I enter the username, click reset, and now I have the new password. I can copy it and I can log in with the new password to the admin interface. It's a cloned installation. As you can see, the messages I've hidden from the production website are not visible anymore here because the database was cloned, and we now have the production website cloned, and we can install an additional extension or do other changes, verify that everything is working as expected before applying all those changes to the production website. And at the end, of course, if you want to remove the clone because you don't need it anymore and you don't want that cloned website to take some of your space, you can use the uninstall, which will remove not only the files, but also the newly created, the cloned database, and also the database user associated with the cloned installation. Basically, it will remove everything and nothing will be left behind. Now for the next steps in the Joomla manager, we have lots of plans to add additional features, but before that, we need to see what would be most useful to the developers and add it here, maybe some security features. I know that Joomla is almost ready with an automatic updater that we will integrate here so that Joomla users will be able to enable or disable automatic updates for Joomla. And the Joomla manager will be performing those updates automatically if the user decided to keep that option enabled, of course. And maybe we will also look for more feedback so that we can see what else would be useful for the Joomla users and developers so that we can implement it as well. That's for the Joomla integration in S-Panel. And now I want to share another document, which is about another, maybe the most exciting feature in S-Panel since some years, I would say, because it brings a new type of service for the hosting industry, because it is not something that is traditionally offered by our competitors and most hosting providers. And this feature is called multi-data center clustering, which allows a website owner to have their website running from multiple data centers at the same time. And if one of the data centers stops working, for example, due to some disaster such as flood, fire, or power outage, or whatever you call it, at that point, the website will continue to operate from another data center in the cluster. Let me share that document so you can. Okay, here we go. I will get to the point where you can see it illustrated. Basically, we've got three main types of S-Panel clusters, depending on how many data centers you want the cluster to be working from. The first one is a cluster in a single data center, where we have all the users sent to an active standby load balancing pair. And those load balancers will balance the visitors to the cluster nodes below. 3 is the minimum for the cluster nodes. The traffic is evenly balanced between the 3. So you can both have lots of visitors served at the same time, and also you can have huge scalability possibilities and options, because here you can scale the cluster to hundreds of servers serving hundreds of millions of visitors per day, especially if you have several layers with caching. Here we have caching on multiple layers on web and also on database layer, with big database clusters with the Galera 4 clustering, and also with multiple master and standby servers, plus the max scale database load balancing proxy software, which allows to configure the SQL queries to be sent to specific servers. For example, you can execute the select statements just on the standby, on the slave MySQL nodes, and also the update and insert statements on the master servers, so that they are then replicated to the whole database layer. The second cluster type is a multi-data center cluster, which includes 2 data centers in an active standby setup. That means all the visitors are served by data center 1, And if data center 1 fails, we can fail over so that data center 2 becomes the active one, and all the visitors are sent to data center 2 until data center 1 is repaired and is healthy again to serve visitors. Here we have one and the same setup with load balancers and cluster nodes, so that we are sure that if data center 1 fails, data center 2 will be able to have the resources to handle all of the visitors. The most interesting and the most complex setup is the multi-region cluster setup, where we have multiple data centers in multiple regions, and also the visitors are forwarded to be served by the servers that are closest to their physical location. For example, you can see here in this example, we are using 3 data centers. 2 are in the US, in New York and Dallas, and the third one is in Europe. And that means traffic from Asia, Europe, and Africa will be forwarded to Europe and served in Europe, while America traffic and Australia will be served from the data centers in the US. If one of the data centers fail, the website continue to operate normally. The different thing here is that the setup is not active standby. It is an active configuration where all of the servers in all data centers and regions are actively serving visitors at the same time. And here we have the same setup with load balancers and cluster nodes in all of the data centers. We can include even more data centers here. They can be 5 or 4. And the whole thing is monitored from multiple monitoring nodes that we run internally to ensure that proper failover is performed and proper fencing mechanism is in place to avoid data loss or downtime in case a data center in any of the regions stops responding. Regarding the technologies that are available to be used in any of the cluster configurations and the cluster types I just explained about, basically all of the technologies that are supported in sPanel are also available in those cluster setups. And sPanel supports all of the major web servers, including Lightspeed Enterprise, Open Lightspeed, Apache, and also Apache plus Nginx running as reverse proxy and handling just the static content. On the database layer, we have MariaDB, Galera 4 cluster, where we can have multiple master and slave nodes, and also the queries to the databases balanced using the multiple max scale instances. In that way, both the web servers and the database layers may scale significantly in all of the data centers that are part of the cluster. The most complex part is the distributed storage, the high availability distributed storage system. And here we use a combination of different software, including in-house built distributed storage software to achieve high availability and also to achieve distributed storage between multiple web servers in different regions. This is really the most complex thing in such a cluster to be achieved. And depending on the customer needs and the use case of the business, we built a solution that works and achieves all of those features, so that the company can have a reliable service, a reliable hosting service, in a way that if something happens in a region and a data center blows up, the website will not only not lose any data, but it will continue to operate and accept orders if it is an online store, or whatever it is, it will just continue to function and continue to work. The cluster is fully managed and monitored. And if something happens, there will be systems administrators to jump immediately and resolve any issues without waiting for a customer to contact us and say, hey, something is not working. For the load balancing part, we are using the HA proxy, Nginx, and the MaxScale for the database part. And this type of clustering may scale to really significant sizes. Basically, upgrading the clusters and the capabilities to serve more visitors is as simple as deploying additional cluster nodes in each of the layers. Here we have load balancers layer, we have web service layer, database layer, caching layer, so that we want to build a setup to save as much CPU as possible and to be as efficient as possible. So a cluster with 6 nodes, I tested that it is able to serve over 70 million visitors per day with the proper caching in place. And in a bigger cluster, there will be more visitors that it can serve. At the moment, we have this clustering solution deployed for the Commission of Elections of the Philippines. They have presidential elections scheduled to be held on the 9th of May, and they are using the cluster to train and educate 350,000 administrative staff how to run the elections. And their cluster is serving about 40 million visitors, 40 million visits per day. And basically, they are amazed with how easy it is to scale the thing, because at the start, they started with the minimum setup with 5 servers, and then they quickly needed much more visitors to be served. And in a couple of hours, they had their cluster upgraded up to 12 web servers and 9 database servers in a cluster and separate servers for caching. So the thing was able to handle many millions of visits per day. Well, I don't have anything else to add here. So that was everything from me about these new features that we have in sPanel, and also the Joomla integration that will make Joomla users and developers' life much easier.
That was really awesome, Vlad. The scaling aspect really interests us, because we have built one of the most scalable websites in Joomla in our times. So the Aadhaar website, which is the unique identity system for India, which is probably one of the highest traffic websites, was built in Joomla. And when we were scaling it, of course, that's a more or less static website. So challenges were probably way lower than a website needing a login and stuff. But the amount of traffic it receives is amazing, and Joomla can scale to that if you can provide the right hardware behind it, the right architecture behind it. And I think what you guys are doing at Scala Hosting would be really awesome, because I think this is a question a lot of people in the community ask, right? How many hits can Joomla stand, or a WordPress stand, or a Drupal stand, right? And that's always a very subjective question. It comes from, there is so much that goes into it, and there's never a straight answer to it, right? But for somebody looking at choosing a tool, that becomes a very important question. And I think what you guys are doing is very interesting. I think if there is a good answer to that question, that would be something I think you guys can solve on a lot of levels. Of course, the architecture would change depending on what the problem statement is. So we have some questions from the audience here. So we have Joe Joe Joomla, who is asking about how does analytics work with multi-cluster setups? Do you need separate analytics for each location? How does that work?
Well, if you refer to Google Analytics, basically the same data is always available to all of the web servers. As everything is on a distributed storage system, basically you always make the change on one web server and it is instantly available to all of the web servers in the cluster, no matter how many data centers are involved in the cluster setup. Of course, here I want to mention that each cluster is planned, designed, and then implemented and deployed based on the specific business case. And here it is very important to gather all the details and the requirements of the project, because there is lots of custom work in designing and building each of the clusters to fit the needs of the business. But if you change a file, because that's what you need to insert the Google Analytics code. If you change a file, it is part of the distributed storage system, and it is automatically the change is automatically active on all of the web servers along the whole cluster.
So Joe, I hope that answers your question. Thank you, Vlad, for that. I have one question of my own. So while scaling Joomla, have you ever faced issues with the session storage? Because that's something that we have always found starts feeling. Joomla uses database for its session. You can also use files. But how did you handle that?
The sessions, we have the load balancers configured in a way so that a user with a single IP address will always be served by one cluster node, by one web server in the cluster. In that way, the session may be saved locally on the disk of that VM. And since the visitor will always be served by that cluster node, then we don't want to have the sessions in the distributed storage environment.
Got it. Because we have found that that's one point of failure. Even with a static website, what ends up happening is that the session storage starts filling up like crazy once your traffic starts hitting. Because recently we also delivered another government website where we didn't use Joomla directly, but if you've heard about Pages, which is like a front end for Joomla, which can be used. It's created by Johan Janssens, is one of the Joomla co-founders. And this was hosted in an Azure setup. So we had to do some interesting things in Azure to, manage, concurrency of around 5,000, concurrent kind of users. So sessions is usually what we end up having to hack in Joomla, because especially for static websites, because you don't really need those sessions. For static websites, what would you recommend? Joomla being a CMS, but when I say static, it means that there's no real user login, not for front-end users. How would you go about handling that?
Well, a static website is actually the easiest to implement, and it doesn't require any resources. And here, the web server and network is the only thing, because that static content is executed in the browser. There is no.
So when I say static, so let me clarify. I mean a static in the sense that it's a website using Joomla.
Okay.
Website, but static from the perspective of there are no user interactions.
Yeah, it's the same, because if you don't expect any dynamic changes to be happening and to be done by the visitors of the website, this is so easy to be implemented, and such a cluster will be so easy to be set up.
So
really easy.
Would you recommend using the file caching plugin in Joomla so that the entire output is cached? And so basically what ends up happening is that even if it's so I won't use the term static website because that gets confusing. So let's say a CMS website that doesn't have a front-end user login. What ends up happening is that Joomla will still keep making queries, right, for every user that hits. And beyond a certain point, that can start, affecting the throughput. So what would be the ideal setup for that kind of a case?
Well, what I recommend is, and that's the reason why we integrated it in sPanel. sPanel supports the Open Lightspeed web server, which is free for unlimited websites. It has the same speed as the paid version, the Lightspeed Enterprise, but it's supported. It is fully managed by us, and on sPanel you can use Open Lightspeed for free for as many websites as you want. And the Open Lightspeed allows you to use all of the caching plugins developed by Lightspeed, which are not usually, but which are only available with the paid version of the Lightspeed web server, which is the fastest web server in the world at the moment for serving both dynamic and static content. So what I recommend is the Open Lightspeed web server plus the Lightspeed caching extension for Joomla. And basically that will save you lots of CPU, RAM, and that's what you want to.
So is that like the default setup on Scala, Lightspeed? So Apache and Nginx, they are not available. I mean, they are not the default options.
Apache and Nginx are available, of course, but Open Lightspeed is much faster.
Yeah. No, this was more a question for Scala. So is that like your default configuration for any setup?
Our default configuration comes with Apache because there are so many websites that are using different things in htaccess that are supported by Apache. Yeah. And when we talk about Open Lightspeed, for example, because it's also free and it's faster than Apache, we don't want to enable it by default because it doesn't support everything that you can add to htaccess to activate different features of the Apache web server. Open Lightspeed supports most, let's say 95% of the multi-rewrite rules you would have in an htaccess, but it doesn't support everything.
Got it.
So that's why we don't install Open Lightspeed by default. But in the sPanel admin interface, we have a web server manager, which allows the owner of the sPanel VPS to install their favorite web server. So from there, they can switch to Apache plus Nginx as a reverse proxy, or Open Lightspeed or Lightspeed Enterprise. It happens with the single click of a button.
Awesome.
It's really easy. It doesn't require any technical skills. Everything is automated and happens in the background.
That's fantastic. I think that's really good to know. I'm sure a lot of the users and viewers today will find that useful, because scaling Joomla is a very hot topic,
Yeah.
that everyone wants to know about. And it's always, as I said, it's not an easy answer always. It comes with a lot of parameters. So one more question that, again, I've seen come up a lot of times. So with Amazon, AWS, and Azure, where would somebody in what case would someone use Scala hosting or any hosting provider versus when would you choose something like Azure or a GCP or a EC2?
Well, that's really up to the business where they want their website to be physically hosted. It's really preference of the name. If you prefer Google Cloud or AWS or DigitalOcean or another one, we actually partner with DigitalOcean and AWS.
Okay.
And if you ask me here, it will be, no, I won't. I won't say my personal opinion. Anyone can have their own opinion, and they can choose whatever cloud vendor they want to use. It can be AWS or whatever.
Yeah, because I heard sometime back SiteGround shifted their entire backend to GCP, right? I mean, do you guys do something like that, or are you managing all your own machines on your own data
No,
set?
we don't. We don't plan to do that because we have lots of custom setups behind. For example, if we want to do something like that, to switch to Google Cloud, we will have to cut lots of custom things we did for our customers to make their life easier. For example, we are one of the not many companies in the world that allow the user to be able to upgrade, to actually have a real cloud VPS. And when they need 10 gigabytes of extra space, they can just add that space to their server and pay $2 extra, rather than having to upgrade to the next plan that is double the price and includes additional CPU cores and RAM and resources they don't need. No one needs, yeah. And if we did something like that and moved to AWS or Google Cloud or whatever other provider, we won't have the flexibility to design the product and to build our product in a way that fits the developers in the best way.
Agreed. One question on the storage, is that like by default SSD or how does it work? Or is it spinning disk?
We are actually using the fastest disks available on the market today. It is the NVMe technology, where we have drives that can write with 3 gigabytes per second, which is pretty impressive. And it lifts all barriers. We don't need to think if the bottleneck will be the I/O, the disk anymore. Basically, now the CPU is the next bottleneck. And this battle will continue forever. The bottleneck will be always somewhere. So it's a battle between the vendors creating the drive, manufacturing the drive, and the CPU manufacturers. But the bottleneck will always be somewhere. We are trying to balance. That's why the cloud was born. It allows us to manage between the bottlenecks so that we use the resources in the most efficient way.
Absolutely. No, really good answer there, Vlad. Thank you so much. This was a fantastic session and very enlightening. So those were all the questions, I think. You guys have anything else to add?
Well, I don't have anything else to add. Chris, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I also enjoyed the presentation, although we're every day together, but we rarely have the time to speak about this, to be honest. So I enjoyed it quite a lot. What I can say, just stay tuned, because some exciting things are just behind the corner for what we are developing with the guys from the Joomla organization. And in the next couple of months, we'll come up with something that we still cannot disclose, but it will make Joomla a unique CMS. And we have the feeling that this will give this necessary advantage of Joomla towards WordPress.
Oh, but, wow. That's, you're making some controversial statements, aren't you? So I think this video could just go viral, right?
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. But that's the world we are living today. It's very dynamic. Things are changing rapidly, and it's been really exciting. So let's see.
Wow. Okay. So I think everybody, please stay tuned. We'll be hearing something. So is there a date? When should we expect that?
In the next couple of months, we are now drafting and making some important plans how to do that. But we're pretty fast here at Scala with our in-house development team. We can be very flexible and very fast when we see something that makes sense and should be developed for the benefit of the end user.
That's really exciting. Looking forward to hear, and we'll be following your Twitter and staying tuned.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys, once again for inviting us. It's been a pleasure, and all the best.
Thank you. Subbu, over to you. So thank you so much, Hristo and Vlad. This was a really great session, and I'm sure the entire community enjoyed it. Sorry?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Subbu,
Yeah.
over to you.
Yes, sure. So thanks, Hristo and Vlad, for joining Joomla Next and delivering an insightful session on scaling Joomla sites and multi-data center clustering. It was a pleasure to host you, and we will look forward to speaking more often with you in these forums.
Perfect. Thank you so much for inviting us, and it was a pleasure for me to participate and to share more about our partnership with Joomla and the new features that we are adding to sPanel.
Absolutely. Thank you. So one more good thing is that this weekend, another great event is coming up, that is Joomla Day USA 2022. Registrations are still open for the event, and we would recommend all our Joomla audience to join some of those amazing sessions. So this is on 22nd of April and to 24th of April 2022, this weekend. So yeah, so we are here to the end of the session. Thanks to all the audience. We really appreciate your time to hear us, to be part of this Joomla Next series. Please stay tuned with all the social media handles of Techjoomla. Visit our website, www.techjoomla.com. To know more about our product and service, feel free to reach out to us. Thanks a lot. Looking forward to more of these events. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.